Good morning, I'm Aarti Subramaniam and it's Super Saturday as the summer blockbuster kicks off with Assam and West Bengal voting in the first phase. Now, Assam may have lacked the fireworks that West Bengal saw, but make no mistake about the political significance of this election. The BJP will want to prove that their 2016 win in Assam wasn't just a flash in the pan and consolidate their electoral presence in the northeast. The big focus, though, of course, is West Bengal. Now, 5 years ago, who would have ever imagined that the BJP would be the main contender to the TMC? But the 2019 Lok Sabha elections have changed the political landscape, the political equations of the state that was once known to be a left citadel. So is the BJP's Mission 200 a distant dream or a distinct possibility? Can Mamata Banerjee once again prove that she is the ultimate fighter? Now, joining us this morning, Mirror Now's managing editor Vinay Tiwari from Noida, and also Tanima Biswas and Afrida Rahman Ali join us from West Bengal and Assam. Good morning to all of you. Now, both Tanima and Afrida are in their home turfs, and I'm sure it's great to be out on the field. So, good morning to both of you. Tanima, if I can start off with you. Now, you are in a place, Kontai, which is where Shubhendu Adhikari, a man who's been spoken about so much in this election, is going to come there and vote a short while from now. Polling has been on for about an hour now. Is there brisk polling, or are people going to be taking out their time to come out this morning?
Good morning, Aarti. As you were mentioning, yes, I'm at Kanthi, Kontai constituency, which is an Adhikari family bastion. In fact, the number of people who have been coming in is not a large number, but they have been trickling in at a steady pace over here. As you were mentioning that Kanthi, the importance of Kanthi, of course, is the fact that this is the Adhikari families. They live right across the road from where I'm standing right now. This is one of the college which has been selected to be the booth over here, polling booth over here. And they live right across the road. They are expected to come. Most members of the family are expected to come and vote here in a short while from now. Shubhendu has in fact recently registered himself as a voter in Nondigram, where he is contesting from. So he is not going to vote from here per se, but he is going to be present with his family members. That's what we are hearing. But it is Shishir Adhikari, Shubhendu's father, who is the local MP from Kanthi. And trust me, I have of course been moving around in Bengal for the past few days, and what we have seen is that the number of BJP posters around in Kanthi is significantly higher than the other areas that are going to polls over here. Jhargram, Purulia, Bankura and parts of West and East Midnapur are going to poll today in the first phase. But Kanthi, there is a significance to the fact that East Midnapur area, the Adhikari family is considered to have a lot of influence. And in Kanthi as well, as we know, Shishir Adhikari, his sons Shubhendu and Dibyendu Adhikari, they are also very well-known political figures over here. Dibyendu Adhikari also is an MP from Tomluk. So these are some of the factors which are going to be important. Of course, very significant to note here is that Shishir Adhikari just joined BJP a few days back. Shubhendu, of course, joined in December. So which way is Kanthi going to sway? It is known to be a TMC bastion for over a decade now. But is that going to change this time around? Are the voters going to go on the basis of personality over here and the influential family, or is the TMC and Mamata Banerjee's charisma still going to hold on to the voters, the perception that they have about her as well as the party? That is going to be something which plays a role here as well. And of course, as we said, that this is the influence of Adhikari families, not just in Kanthi but in parts of East Midnapur, which is polling today. And of course, the other important area to note which is polling in the first phase is Jhargram area and Purulia as well. Both these areas in the 2019 parliamentary elections that we saw had in fact swayed significantly towards the BJP. BJP did really well in these areas as well. So is the BJP going to be able to rework that magic this time around as well, or is the TMC is making amends that we saw? That is what they have been speaking to, that at a grassroots level they have tried to make changes since the 2019 debacle. Is that something that they can count on or bank on? That is also something that we'll have to wait and watch out for. Aarti.
Well, Tanima, we'll come back to you in just a bit. Perhaps we can get a sense of what issues the voters are going to be looking at when they press that EVM. Of course, EVMs have also become a matter of great controversy. I'll come back to you in just a bit. Going across to Afrida. Afrida, very good morning to you. Now, you're also in a very interesting constituency of Shivsagar, a place where there was a lot of anti-CA protests. Interestingly, this is also the seat where a man, Akhil Gogoi, is going to be contesting in these polls. What's the scene like where you're at? Brisk polling, or are we still seeing voters just perhaps milling around this morning?
Yes. Good morning, Aarti. Yes, voters have started showing up. Remember, this is Assam. It's a very early sunrise here. So people are up and about. 7 o'clock is not early for Shivsagar. So people have definitely showed up. I'll show you a bit. I'm standing in front of a primary school in the heart of Shivsagar town. So this is the turnout as of now, but I think as we go along, the numbers are going to increase. This is one of those places, Aarti, where traditionally people show up to vote. The vote percentage is always high. The last time around, it was over 80% in Shivsagar. Let me tell you about the contest here. The reason we chose Shivsagar, and you and me were part of that conversation, is because, you know, this is one of those seats which is so tightly contested. I mean, think about it. The last time the Congress candidate won from Shivsagar with just 542 votes. So Pranab Gogoi, who was a former Assembly Speaker, is no more, however. He passed away in February 2020. This time around, Congress has fielded Subhamitra Gogoi, and BJP has fielded Surabhi Rajkumar. Akhil Gogoi, of course, is the man of the moment. He's the candidate to look out for. He's from Raijor Dol. I want to just share an important information here, since I was talking to the district authorities, and what I got to know is that Akhil Gogoi's party, the Raijor Dol, apparently is neither recognized nor registered. So therefore, Akhil Gogoi actually is standing as an independent candidate from Shivsagar. Now, what is important here, like I said, is this is a hotly contested seat, and there is no stronghold here, unlike what Tanima was saying. It has been, won by both the BJP and the Congress in previous terms, and this time there is a third element. There is the Akhil Gogoi element, and this is what is going to extend this whole narrative about how the smaller regional parties, the Raijor Dol and the other Assam Jatiya Parishad, how are they going to impact the Congress alliance, which is called Mahajot in Assam, or the BJP alliance. BJP, as you know, is allying with a certain section of the Bodos and, of course, with the AGP. And it will be interesting to see how the smaller parties impact the vote. And Shivsagar is one such seat where the contest is therefore going to be extremely interesting. Akhil Gogoi, unfortunately, has not campaigned here at all. Now, although he hasn't campaigned here, seems to be a bit of sympathy factor for him since he is jailed. He's been in jail since December 2019. He's arrested by the NIA for UAPA, and therefore he's currently in the jail. He's filed his nomination papers also through video conferencing in Guwahati. The Akhil Gogoi factor will be very important here. And overall, this entire first phase, Aarti, will be very critical for the Assam state elections. 47 seats going to elections this time around. And out of that, whichever side manages to make the bigger impact or wins the larger number of seats will have a bigger chance of getting Assam or winning Assam in the state polls.
Afrida, thanks so much for that. We'll keep coming back to you, for a sense of the voters' pulse and what's happening on ground. But for now, I say good morning to Avijit Ghoshal, a news editor of Money 9, and Singnedu Bhattacharya, a journalist and author of Mission Bengal, a Saffron Experiment. Good morning, gentlemen. I appreciate both of you joining us here this morning. Vinay Tiwari, managing editor of Mirror Now, of course, with us. Vinay, it's the first day of a very, very long test series. Are you ready for this long haul?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's also because it's possibly the other IPL that gets played out in India every year, and that's the Indian Political League. And I guess this time it's going to be far more exciting than even the real match that's going to happen the next month on. And I say it's most exciting simply because there is a contest in each of the 4 states, at least, if not the 5th one as well. And any election that's a contest always makes it exciting. I think there are conflicting, opinion polls that seem to suggest different things. I know some people use opinion polls to try and sense what's happening in a state. But I can tell you opinion polls can be a little misleading because they simply capture what a person is thinking at that point of time. And a large number of people take a decision closer to the day they're voting. So there are, of course, conflicting, views or assessments that people are making. But I think these are possibly the most important state elections we've had in a long time, simply because they are not just about, election of a new government in a state. They're also about certain tectonic shifts that we've been seeing in Indian politics, and some of the aspects of those politics that will have a very deep impact on the way India runs for the next 4 or 5 years. Because many big narratives can and possibly will change if depending on what the results are. And that's, I think we'll speak about it as we go along. But that makes this election for me the most exciting.
Well, it certainly is the most exciting election since the 2019 polls, as far as if you ask me personally. Mr. Bhattacharya, Vinay was saying that there has been a tectonic shift in Indian politics over the years, but nothing tells you that story as much as West Bengal. 5 years ago, the political landscape was so different in West Bengal. You would never have even imagined that the BJP today was the one that's going to be giving or was going to be the main contender to the TMC. So much like 2011, when the political landscape of West Bengal changed, here we are in 2021 asking that same question 10 years later.
Yeah, see, in 2011, that change had a different perspective. From the middle of 2006, I mean, immediately after the left front government came to power for the 7th time, and land agitation started in Shingu, and then it spread to Nandigram. And then agitation spread over ration and other land-related issues in Bhangar in South 24th Parganas, in parts of Birbhum. So a kind of mass movement against the front government's policies had been taking shape since 2006, which first got manifested in the 2008 Panchayat elections, and then the 2009 Panchayat election, Lok Sabha elections. So this TC's rise was quite, we could see the rise gradually from 2008, 2009. And in 2011, it was almost expected that the government, that the TMC should come to power. They were already by the 2009 Lok Sabha elections, the TMC and Congress combined was already leading in more than 170 of the 274 assembly segments. But this time, even in 2006, or even in 2016 or 17, no one really knew who TMC's main contender was. And it was only in the 2018 Panchayat election that the BJP clearly emerged as the TMC's main rival. Before that, if you look at all the elections, the Lok Sabha by-election, Assembly by-election, or the Assembly general elections, between 2014 and 2018, the people were divided in choosing who is the toughest contender, who is the strongest contender against TMC. Sometimes they voted for the left, sometimes they voted for the BJP. For the second position. But after 2018 Panchayat election, everything changed. First, the mockery of elections that it was, angered the people of Bengal, and the TMC started losing its appeal. And second, the BJP clearly emerged as the strongest contender. And in 2019 Lok Sabha election, that was clear. The Bengal stood bipolar between TMC and BJP. So just in a matter of 2-3 years, we have seen a meteoric rise of BJP. And even as this election starts today, in the area, the elections are happening in the first phase. There are 3 assembly segments. Of them, the BJP was leading, and quite comfortably, in 20 assembly segments. TMC was leading in only 10. And if you consider even those 10 seats where the TMC was leading in 2019, of them, 3 seats are in the 4 seats are in the stronghold of Shubhendu Adhikari and Shishir Adhikari, the
Yes.
Adhikari family. Now they have switched. So BJP is quite upbeat about winning at least 23, 24 to 25 seats of these 30 in the first phase. While TMC hopes that the reorganizational program that they carried out in different levels of the party structure and the public outreach programs that they carried out
Right.
will help them regain some of their lost votes.
Well, I do want to speak
so-
about that Shubhendu Adhikari factor, because that's going to be, his looming presence is going to be there, not just in this phase and next phase, but throughout the election. I'm sure Mr. Avijit Ghoshal, as Mr. Bhattacharya was mentioning, 2019 was certainly the inflection point, but 2018 is actually the Panchayat polls is where it began. But over the past couple of years and in the run-up to these polls, what we have seen, not just the political landscape changing, but along with that, even the nature of discourse in West Bengal politics changing. Few years ago, you would not be having a Jai Shri Ram conversation at all. You wouldn't be talking caste or scheduled tribes, or, you wouldn't have that kind of conversation in West Bengal at all. But now, even that has changed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the most unfortunate features of these elections. In Bengal, I'll just quote a former additional chief secretary whom I, used to know very well. He came to the state in 1977. He was from Uttar Pradesh. He has retired and stayed here since. And he tells me that, Abhijit, over the last so many decades that I have been in Calcutta and Bengal, nobody has for once even asked my caste. Now, that in microcosm, reflects the society that Bengal was, and hopefully will remain. But it's very painful at a personal level even, and perhaps most of us, to see that castes being discussed threadbare in these elections. What we have seen down the years is obviously a disaggregation of the voters into the religious elements, the Hindus and Muslims. We have seen that. But to see threadbare discussing who's a Maheshwar, who is a Bauri, who's an OBC, and who's a Mahato, and who's a Brahmin, who's a Kaisto, and who's an SC and ST and OBC to begin with, it really is something we could never have imagined. But the point is, this is how elections are progressing. And interestingly, as the disaggregation into castes they intensify, a lot of people who are basically crunchers of data, they are getting more and more employment with the political parties, because now the welfare schemes that are being promised and that are being implemented they are all targeted even at micro populations, so that the canvassing of votes has become extremely target oriented, and almost like what a marketing MBA does actually with his markets. I mean, these election strategies have become very, very, pocket centric. And so you can hear different sorts of speeches in the same assembly constituency, depending on the area, on the neighborhood where one is canvassing. But this, as you said, is an extremely, is a defining feature of these elections. Yeah, you are right.
True. Vinay, and in many ways, the BJP has forced that change in especially Mamta's discourse. You would have never imagined her, going and starting reciting the Durga mantra at various events. It's something that even incidentally the Congress and the left have seized upon, saying the Prime Minister has made Mamta do these things. So even her rivals and her opponents who aren't the BJP have noticed this change. And in many ways, it is the BJP that has forced her to recalibrate her stand as far as religious discourse is concerned.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah,
but
I mean, look,
there is even a beginning to it. I think, what the left used to do is that they used to maintain a very delicate and subtle balance between the religious communities in Bengal. Mm-hmm. That was a defining feature of a consistent policy of the left, be it Jyoti Basu, be it Buddhadev Bhattacharya. None of them really disturbed this balance. But once Mamata Banerjee came in, she found that the Muslims were prone to, voting for her in the 2011 elections. And after she came in, she used to make it a practice
Yes.
to make it very apparent. Her religious associations became very ostensible. And obviously, the impression that quickly gained ground, especially in this labeled by the Begum, by a Muslim appeaser,
Yes.
photos of her wearing some particular dresses, they became, and religious intonations that became viral. But we often forget that she is not the only leader who has associated herself with the Muslims. In fact, in all our parties, I say without exception, A, B, C, D to Z, all parties have leaders who have identified with the minorities
Yes.
to canvass their votes. And Mamta perhaps made the mistake of crossing a certain limit, whereby it became very easy for her rivals to give her a level, use the social media to drive home the message with the electorate, and automatically trigger a sort of a Hindu backlash, if you allow me to use that term.
Yes.
That's why what I think she aired and opened a floodgate actually of this identity politics to begin in Bengal, even at a very micro level.
Yes, Vinay, that's something that, West Bengal doesn't see identity politics of this nature and religious credentials and religious identity being brought to the front in this manner.
Well, the answer is yes and no. I mean, look, there are two
Yes, Vinay
state
Tiwari,
experts
yeah,
on the
that question
panel
was for
right
Vinay.
now, so I'll be very happy to be contradicted because they would definitely understand the state better. But I'll tell you two things. The answer is yes and no for the simple reason that, the left traditionally, and not just in Bengal, even outside of Bengal, say in states like Kerala, left leans more towards atheism. They've never really ever used religion as a card, whether while fighting elections or even otherwise in terms of the politician's own identity. They've never used that card, and that's the way they are. Ironically, what BJP has used in the last 4 or 5 years is borrowed from the book of Mamta herself. It's not as if the BJP suddenly came in and changed the game by bringing religion and even caste. I mean, Mamata's close association with the Matua community, for instance, was an indicator to the BJP that that card can be played, and it can be played successfully. Also, there was no doubt about it that the TMC did make a few decisions that could have been interpreted, and I'm using the word could because this is always a matter of perception, that could have been interpreted as a decision of minority appeasement, whether it was the doles that she wanted to give out to some clerics or there were other kinds of financial benefits. There were interpretative challenges in that, and that's what the BJP came in and exploited. The one other issue which I now notice every single BJP leader, especially leaders like Yogi Adityanath, go around talking about now in the rallies, is that they keep telling people that you had to go to court even for your own Ma Durga. They keep talking about that because they obviously want to show her up as somebody who's favoring one religion. Now the point is, these are tricks that originally were tried by the other side, and the BJP just came and perfected that game. And that's where the real problem is in this election, because now you have comparative politics happening on both sides. Mamta has been now forced to give a more demonstrative evidence of her being so-called pro-majority or pro-Hindu, which was not needed maybe earlier. And that changes the equation and obviously confuses the people a lot. And remember, Bengal has about almost 30% plus of minority votes. In fact, one of the analysts very recently put it pretty nicely when he said that for Mamta to win this election, she will have to win the majority of the minority votes and a minority of the majority votes. That I thought was a very apt way of trying to understand what's going on in Bengal.
Well, that is true, Vinay. In many ways, this is an election like we haven't seen before, and all eyes are going to be on how this pans out. But Srinivas, very quickly now, Vinay was saying that the BJP has borrowed this playbook inside from Mamta Banerjee, and it is a way perhaps to also gloss over or cover up the fact that they don't have any Bengali icons that they can rely on. They don't have any Bengali culture that they can tap into. Yes, they are an outsider in many ways to this, and in many ways to compensate that deficit, they have turned to religious identity.
See, let me first give you a context to how Mamta Banerjee took to Muslim appeasement. Her party was launched in 1998 and she immediately struck an alliance with the BJP. So from 1998 to 2006, she was mostly with the NDA on and off. And in 2001, when there was an event in Delhi, an RSS event, Tarun Vijay's book publication, there Mamata Banerjee was one of the attendees along with Mohan Bhagavat, and she was publicly declared as Ma Durga by RSS leaders who attended that Delhi event. And so from 2007 and 2008, when Mamata Banerjee saw that this land agitation happening in Nandigram and in Bhangar had significant Muslim population, and for the first time she saw a realistic chance of getting Muslim votes, she started to change her stance, because the left was telling people, don't trust Mamata Banerjee, she has been with the BJP, she is BJP's agent. So the more these Muslims took part in the land agitation, the more the left brought back her past with the BJP and RSS, and the more she tried to appease the Muslims in publicly. She started wrapping sari around her head and offering namaz and announcing or other schemes on the day of Eid. So these kinds of activities went on. And one other thing, that dole politics, one of her key decisions that has seems to have turned against her is the stipend for Islamic clerics, the imams and their helpers, the muezzins. Now the thing is that the government doesn't pay the money. It is a credit that Mamata Banerjee sought without actually being responsible for it, because these Muslim clerics and muezzins, they get the stipend from the Waqf board, not the state government. But the way Mamata Banerjee tried to portray as her gesture towards the community actually turned against her. And now, definitely, BJP has caught the language, because in Bengal, before the arrival of BJP or before the rise of Modi at the central level, no one spoke the language of the right.
Yes,
But
and
now-
it is, yes. Sorry, go ahead.
But now, after 2014, Mamata Banerjee was facing questions from the right, not from the left. The questionnaire had changed. The rules of the game had changed. And BJP bettered actually Mamata Banerjee in this game of identity politics. And now it's all over. The genie is out of the bottle. And of course, BJP is using it to neutralize the lack of a prominent face in Bengal. They don't have a face, so they are banking on issues. And two issues are primary. One is the misgovernance, and two, this minority appeasement or injustice to the majority.
Yes, and I do want to, dwell on that insider versus outsider debate that the BJP incidentally is facing, not just in West Bengal, but also in Tamil Nadu. And I think perhaps, at least as far as West Bengal is concerned, to cope with that and, to take away attention from that, they've filled up this vacuum, or they've tried to take advantage of this vacuum that was been caused over the years in West Bengal. But before we get to that discussion, now one thing as far as West Bengal is concerned, it has seen historically a lot of violence going to polls. Fortunately, we've not seen that kind thus far. But just a quick update for our viewers: a bus was torched in Bengal's Purulia district by unknown assailants. The incident has happened when the bus was returning after dropping off polling officers. The driver of that vehicle has been taken for questioning. In fact, Mohit Bhatt has more details.
We are reporting from the Banvan district, and this particularly has been a moist affected area in the past. Now you can see this is the road over here, and on both the sides over here it's dense forest, and a vehicle was dropping off the polling officers, and when it was coming towards this side, according to the people who were present in the bus, three men came from the side of the forest and they sprayed a chemical on the vehicle, and it was put on fire. You can see the remains of fire yesterday. You can imagine many parts of the trees have also caught fire. You can imagine how big the fire was, though the vehicle has been towed away by the security officials from this particular point. But yesterday night the security is brief in this particular area. The CRPF, BDO, the local police, they were all on the spot. So I'll ask my camera person to be on these visuals. You can see how big this fire was, that it has gone inside the forest. Now this particular area we talk about has been moist infected in the past, and it's a narrow road that leads towards the Saga Supari village where the polling officers were being dropped off. But when it was coming towards this side at the night, three people came from the side of the forest. They sprayed some chemical onto the vehicle and it was put on fire. The senior officials were on the spot, and we know for a fact that how it happened just before the polling in for the first phase in West Bengal. We know for a fact that how in many areas there have been reports of clashes between the BJP and the TMC workers, and both the sides have written various letters to the CEO of Bengal. But this was something which was big because a vehicle that was carrying polling officers and that dropped off polling officers at their respective locations were coming out from the village, and it was put on fire.
Well, Mohit Bhatt bringing us those details there. The cause of the fire is yet to be ascertained. We'll bring you that update. But it is, of course, Saturday morning where the first phase of polling has begun. And we're just getting started. There's lots to discuss about Assam, West Bengal, the impact of these elections on the national political picture as well. We're going to slip into a short break, but don't go anywhere. There's plenty on the other side.